let's get to that basement dwellers thing. Again, I am in no way justifying it. It's a mind-blowingly stupid thing to say. It really reflects again that, and this has been a problem with the Clinton campaign. There's been a lot of like, why don't millennials like us? Fucking basement dwellers. There's been a lot of that. But I also think, you're in the heat of a campaign and, whatever. You're speaking off the record. Again, I would really urge people to not make this a profoundly emotional and personalized issue. Make it a substantive issue. There's major substance issues there, but they should not be personalized. And who's a better lead to follow than the great Bernie Sanders himself? Here he is on ABC, also on This Week with George Stephanopoulos, talking about Hillary Clinton's basement dweller comments and giving us smart marching orders. Here's Bernie.
Some of Hillary Clinton's critics have been targeting comments she made at a closed-door fundraiser back in February. I want to play them and then get your response. Here you go. She's talking about your supporters.
They're children of the Great Recession, and they are living in their parents' basement. And so if you're feeling that you're consigned to, being a barista or, some other job that doesn't pay a lot and doesn't have much of a ladder of opportunity attached to it, then the idea that maybe, just maybe, you could be part of a political revolution is pretty appealing.
Oh, my God.
Here's what Donald Trump tweeted about that. He said, Crooked H is nasty to Sanders supporters behind closed doors, owned by Wall Street and politicians. HRC is not with you, making a direct pitch to your supporters. How did you take it?
I took it exactly the opposite way. I think what she said, and by the way, during the campaign, we do have our differences. Secretary Clinton and I do disagree on issues. But what she was saying there is absolutely correct. And that is, you got millions of young people, many of whom took out loans in order to go to college, hoping to go out and get decent paying good jobs. And you know what? They're unable to do that. And yes, they do want a political revolution. They want to transform the society. They want to make sure that when they get out of school, they can get a job that pays them wages and salaries commensurate with the education they have. I think that's a very important point. And that is an issue that as a nation we have got to address. How do we create good paying jobs for people who have a decent education? And one of the issues that Clinton is talking about is rebuilding our infrastructure, pay equity for women, raising the minimum wage to a living wage. So in fact, we can have decent paying jobs for all of our people.
Let me work that backwards. So Bernie is at the end. I agree. He's pointing out certain policies on infrastructure, on wages, where Hillary has moved in his direction. And she has, from the outset of her campaign, actually articulated some very, very good proposals, and people need to be aware of them. Then, I think he's splitting the difference there. I think it's an ambiguous statement, okay? Because she's expressing a certain sympathy, but she's doing it still in a very disconnected and condescending way. Now, I understand why, he doesn't want to emphasize that, and he wants to emphasize the place of agreement. That's fine. But, she clearly wasn't just saying there, young people have been sold a bill of goods and they're angry for a reason. No, she was saying, yeah, it's a bad economy out there, and they're in their basements, and now they've gotten seduced by silly politics, which is, of course, fundamentally delusional. I mean, or true, and the lesson from that should be that this crisis should be solved. She's somewhat part of the way of doing it, and then we have the chuckle with Donald Trump trying to capitalize on it. And again, that's the most important point about all of this. Do you honestly think that Donald Trump even remotely would do anything other than make the situation of young people worse? I mean, this is a bigoted trust fund baby who doesn't even pay contractors. And he is going to deliver for an incredibly diverse group of young people living out the consequences of a system that was designed for him to hustle his taxes. And again, for the next couple of weeks, That is the bottom line. And I look forward to a political conflict with the left and the center left, center right. But we need to eliminate the insane people. They need to lose, let alone if they're deranged sociopaths. So people can say, hey, you're bringing up Trump because you can't really defend Hillary. And no, I'll tell you where I think she's got great proposals, and I'll say again and again, expanding Social Security. She got on board with moving in the right direction on Social Security. She got on board with the public option. She's gotten on board dramatically with college affordability, with raising the minimum wage. Good. Does she have a fundamental structural understanding? I don't think so. Is she someone who's going to really take on the sclerotic inequities and injustices of our society that choke off resources and put far too much in far few hands? No, not structurally. I doubt it. But I'm looking forward to having that debate and that conflict with her administration and some good people that will be inside it versus a unhinged neo-fascist.
To go back to what you're saying about people not making it personal and focusing on the substance, that's what I feel like all this is about, because these comments by Hillary didn't really bother me much at all. And I think like Bernie's comments here actually don't strike me as spin as I feel like a lot of people were commenting on. Like it was just basic spin. Like you can't, Hillary was, she was on the board of Walmart, right? Like this is actually a pretty, if you put a microphone next to what the people on the board of Walmart are saying about the economy and like our generation, they're not going to be saying stuff that is this close to even the truth. Like, okay, so of course it's condescending. You have to expect that. Like, you're going to be faced with condescension, and just be thrown off and sort of, misdirected by that it's juvenile, I think. Like, I think you just have to get over it. You can't, it's like, just because it's not the tone, you focus on the substance, okay? It's not childish to say that we can have free healthcare. That's actually like, if you think that substantively that's the smart thing to do, then argue that. But don't be upset because she condescended about it, because they're going to do that.
Yeah, and already, and by the way, this is how these things move and change. I mean, she went, look even at the process with Sanders. In the beginning, when he announced, the response from people in Hillary land and everywhere else was like, oh, isn't that cute? He'll go and make himself hoarse at a couple of campaign rallies, and there'll be some sort of like Fish concert type campaign events at a couple of places, and he'll get 5 in Iowa, and maybe he'll do maybe he'll get within 5 points of us or something in New Hampshire, and then we'll run the table on him. And I'm sure that there probably are some people around Hillary that are smart and saw potential of something, but let's be real. The overall attitude towards him was, benign neglect at best, scorn, ridicule, and condescension at worst. Then it turns into a real campaign, and you have the respect of at least being like, okay, I have a real opponent here who's winning, who's gaining support, who has a lot of money on hand. This is a serious thing. Now we're at the next phase where, and again, I appreciate the irony of this as much as anybody else who supported Bernie Sanders in the primary. The same people were, oh, he can't be a general election candidate. He'll totally alienate people in middle America. Now they're like, could you please, Bernie, come out to Ohio, and can you please shore up this support? So even this notion of like, how do you overturn condescension? Don't take it personally and then win. Okay? Like, give him a base. Give him and Elizabeth Warren. There was a report last week. They're already talking about coordinating on shutting down Wall Street loyalist appointees in a Clinton administration. So how about instead of tweeting her a million times about how she didn't support Sanders and she's a sellout and blah, 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 all this bullshit, how about support her and Bernie and this other progressive bloc in the Senate having power so that they can push forward the agenda that needs to be pushed forward? How about that? That's the, and I'm sorry, we have to use terminology like this, but yeah, that's the mature response.
Hey folks, Sam Seder here. I just got back from a company-wide meeting. Accounting is really coming down on me hard. We need to get to 100,000 subscribers as soon as possible. So please enjoy this channel. Subscribe right up Right up. Right down there.